This video was brought to you by Manco.store, which is owned by the same people as Manco.trade. This site is essentially an online marketplace which allows you to buy and sell thousands of Team Fortress 2 items. You can also get your own personalised store where it has an individual link that you can send to people to where they can see all the items that you're selling and buying. The link to Manco.store, the marketplace, will be down below. Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Joe and welcome to a brand new video. Now, if you've been keeping tune on the channel, you may have seen this video where I went over some loadouts that you probably haven't seen due to the fact these are some underused and unseen cosmetics that really don't quite get any recognition. And some of you guys said that you'd like to see me do the opposite. So as opposed to doing unseen loadouts, we're going to be doing overseen loadouts and overused cosmetics. So these are going to be 9 of the most commonly used loadouts of Team Fortress 2. I've compiled a loadout for each class with 3 cosmetics for each one, all of which I believe are used to the point where they could be considered generic and overused. So yeah, that is just about it for the intro. Without further ado, I mean, we could just get straight into it. Once again, we're going to be going in the order that the classes are presenting in game. So we're going to be starting off with the scout and ending off with the spy. Without further ado, lads, let's get straight into it. So for this first loadout, this may not come as a bit of a surprise to you, but we've got the Scout, with the Troublemaker's Tussle Cap, the Fast Learner, and the Brutus Bandana. And normally when you see this loadout, it will most likely be painted, commonly lime or pink, for example. I don't know what it is about the Tussle Cap or the Fast Learner and why they're so commonly used together, but yeah, there it is. I think the Brutus Bandana as well, it's obviously an all-class cosmetic and it's used a lot on other classes. I just thought I'd put it on the Scout because it's generally in a loadout similar to this. And there is a few other all-class cosmetics throughout this video I thought it would be worth mentioning. Multi-class cosmetics and all-class cosmetics, they're not specifically used on the loadout they're shown on, they're just very popular in general, and I thought I'd put it on at least one loadout to pay some homage. So up next is the Soldier loadout, and once again, I'm sure this won't become much as a surprise to you. We've got the Team Captain, the All-Father, and the Cold Snap Coat. Now, the Team Captain had to be in there. It's one of those iconic hats in Team Fortress 2 that it'll never get old, you know what I mean? Whether that's for being a very popular unusual and a very expensive unusual, or just whether that's for its iconic silhouette in general, it definitely had to be in this list. Whether that's on the Heavy or the Medic or the Soldier isn't too important. The All-Father, again, a multi-class cosmetic, but I feel like it's most commonly used on Soldier, honestly, or the Heavy as well. There's a lot of Father Christmas Heavies running about, but I just put it on the Soldier for simplicity. And the Cold Snap Coat seems to be the most commonly used coat, I think. It's up there with the sort of gift bringer. I'd say they're both pretty popular. It's normally the winter ones that are more popular on the Soldier. Now, this Pyro loadout consists of the Cranial Carcharodon, the Last Breath, and the Sub-Zero suit. And the only real one I could potentially have a minor quibble with is that Cranial Carcharodon, because the main reason I put it in is because it's a very cheap hat to purchase. People can buy it from the Steam market, and also in unusual form it's really cheap as well, so you always see a lot of kind of like higher tier effects on these things because they're quite cheap, so a lot of people are running around with them. The Last Breath and Sub-Zero suit are undisputable in my opinion. I mean, I use them in my Pyro loadout. I know a lot of other people who do as well. It's just like the staple piece of the Pyro, you know? Everyone uses the Last Breath and that Sub-Zero suit. The Cranial Carcharodon, I'm not really too sure what the replacement would be for it though, so if you have any ideas in the comments, please do let me know what you'd maybe replace it with. Now, this next one I had a bit of difficulty with as well, just because there's so many commonly used Demo Man cosmetics that I genuinely didn't know which one to pick. So I went with the Blast Defense as the hat, the Bushido, and the Dark Age Defender. Now, the Bushido and the Dark Age Defender together don't really appear a lot, but individually, these things seem to be used relatively frequently, you know. I always see Demo Knights rocking about with the Dark Age Defender or the Bushido, and I just thought I'd put them both in because I really couldn't make my mind up. And the Blast Defense, for the same reason as the Cranial Carcharodon, it's incredibly cheap. It's only a mercenary grade. You can buy it on the Steam market, and also in unusual form, it's pretty cheap as well, which means we see a lot of unusual Demo Man loadouts kind of going around with the Blast Defense. So moving on to the 5th loadout, I'm sure everyone saw this coming. It's the JoJo loadout. I was going to make the Father Christmas Heavy because everyone seems to use that, but since the Starboard Crusader and the Tsar Platinum got added, I literally couldn't have not included these. So many people seem to use this loadout, and it really shows the kind of crossover between the JoJo fanbase and the TF2 fanbase. It's just how many people were that excited when the cosmetics got added. So the loadout is the Starboard Crusader, the Tsar Platinum, and the Viking Braider as the beard. I couldn't make my mind up on which beard to use. Maybe the Cuban Bristle Crisis could have been up there as well, but I went with the Viking Braider because it seemed to go with the loadout a little bit more. But by far, this is the most commonly used heavy loadout. There is no chance that you haven't seen a heavy running around with both of these cosmetics at the same time before. It's definitely up there with the team captain in terms of how frequently this thing is used. Coming up next was another pretty easy one for the engineer. We have the level 3 chin, the plumber's cap, and the egghead's overalls. And the egghead's overalls and the level 3 chin are always used together. You always see the big belly and the double chin. The hat can be switched up a bit though. It's not always the plumber's cap. In fact, the plumber's cap is not the most commonly used, I'd say, but just for this loadout specifically, a lot of people will paint it gold, and then you already have like a Wario loadout, so it really is 2 birds with 1 stone. And just, yeah, these things are very commonly used. You can actually paint the plumber's cap whatever colour you want to reference whatever Mario character you'd like. I just thought the level 3 chin and the egghead's overalls were just too commonly used not to put in the loadout. Up next for the medic, I'm sure this was a very predictable one as well, and that's the kind of point of the video. I want them to be like predictable, and you guys can be like, yeah, I have seen medics running around with that, or I have seen an engineer running around with that. This medic is using the Angel of Death, the Blighted Beak, and the Nun Hood. It makes sense because the Nun Hood and the Angel of Death are obviously made to go together. It's pretty much like part of the same attire, and the Blighted Beak kind of finishes off that witch plague doctor kind of vibe we've got going. This is just a really cool combination of cosmetics in my opinion, and I'm really not surprised that this is overused whatsoever. There's different medic loadouts for different purposes, but just generally this seems to go well easily together, so I guess that's the main reason people do kind of tend to use it. And of course, if you're more of a higher tier trader, the chances are the Beak will be unusual and the Nun Hood will be unusual, which are 2 of the most expensive medic unusuals possible. So, yeah, it kind of covers all bases with this loadout. Now, going on to the sniper, I had a bit of difficulty with this one because there's one hat, and I'm sure you guys can think of what it is, that definitely deserve to be in the list. But in terms of the rest of the cosmetics, I was actually kind of struggling a bit. So in the end, I decided on this. It's the Anger, the Grey Bands, and the Dead of Night. And I had to include the Dead of Night somewhere in this video. And whether that's on the sniper or not, it probably isn't most commonly used on the sniper. I just thought it had to appear in the video. It's such a cool cosmetic, and the fact it's all class as well is just amazing. So yeah, I just put it on the sniper for simplicity and because I couldn't really decide on another one. However, the Anger had to be in the video. It's one of those hats like the team captain. It's very, very old, and it's associated straight with TF2 and like the edgy sniper main, you know? And the Grey Bands, once again, like the Dead of Night, didn't really have a specific place on the sniper. I just thought it's such a commonly used cosmetic in general that I had to include it. And finally, guys, we have the Spy loadout, and this was the hardest for me to decide because I couldn't think of one specific loadout that I see used all the time. I can think of so many different spy cosmetics in my head that are commonly used, just not one that is like frequently used by everyone, you know? There's like a cosmetic pool for the spy that spy mains just seem to pick out of. So I've decided on a few that I think deserve to be on the list. So this is what we've got. We've got the Lapati Phantom, the Charmer's Chapeau, and the Distinguished Rogue. And the Distinguished Rogue is a bit of a questionable one, but hear me out. My reason for putting the Distinguished Rogue in the video is because it's on the Steam market. It's one of the first cosmetics that I think anyone has bought. I remember when I started playing TF2, I bought a Distinguished Rogue from the Steam market because it was in genuine quality, which I thought the green text is pretty cool. And at the time it was super cheap as well, and I'm pretty sure as I'm recording this video, I'll flash it on the screen now. The Distinguished Rogue is still very cheap, so I'm sure there's a lot of new players in TF2 going on that Steam market looking for spy cosmetics, and the Distinguished Rogue has got to be up there in the top results. So guys, that is just about it for my list. If there's anything you'd change, maybe some cosmetics you think should appear that didn't appear, or maybe some cosmetics that did appear that you feel like didn't necessarily have a place in the list, then let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please do leave a like if you did enjoy this video, and let me know your thoughts in general down in the comments below. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and peace. till my bank is empty. All my time to someone who don't even wanna text me. Never doing that again cause all it does is stress me. Spitting bars is fun to me, now all these rappers under me. I posted with a zoot and preems, I beat up car hard dungarees. Top and I won't leave cause I'm a stubborn G. Enough love to the people who still fuck with me. Put so much energy and never see the reward.